Nobody trusted the alien thief until I stood up for her. And now she refuses to leave my side. Asterisk. The space station Meridian 7 was never quiet. It floated at the edge of human territory, where merchants, smugglers, and wanderers crossed paths. The air always carried a mix of smells: fried protein cakes from the market stalls, oil from cargo haulers, and the faint chemical temps of recycled oxygen. But today, something was different. There was shouting in the market hall, and people were running toward the noise. Commander Raylan heard the commotion as he stepped off the security deck. He followed the sound, his boots clicking against the steel floor. When he reached the market square, he saw the crowd. Humans and aliens stood in a circle, shouting and pointing toward the center. In the middle, an alien woman crouched low. Her skin shimmered with a silver-blue tone, and her eyes reflected the bright market lights like two small moons. Her clothes were torn, and she clutched something close to her chest. A trader yelled, "That's her. She stole the crystal." Another shouted, "She's a thief. Her kind always are." The crowd's voices rose in anger. Two station guards were moving in, their stun batons ready. Raylan stepped closer, scanning the alien. She was breathing hard, her eyes darting between the guards and the crowd. He had seen fear before, but this was different. It was a sharp, controlled fear, like she was ready to run or fight at any second. The trader pushed forward, waving his hands. "That crystal was worth more than a ship," he shouted. "She took it from my stall, right under my nose." The alien shook her head, speaking in a voice so soft it was almost lost in the noise. "I did not take it," she said, her words clear in human tongue. No one seemed to care. The guards moved closer, but Raylan noticed something. Her hands were empty. If she had taken the crystal, she didn't have it now. Still, the crowd smelled blood, and the anger was spreading. Raylan's training told him to let the guards handle it, but something about the scene felt wrong. The trader's story was too quick, too clean. He had seen false accusations before, and this felt like one. The guards reached for the alien. In a flash, she looked past them, locking her gaze with Raylan's. Her silver eyes were sharp, almost desperate, and then she whispered, just loud enough for him to hear, "They will kill me before I can tell you." Raylan's heart gave a single hard beat. It wasn't just fear in her voice, it was certainty. The guards grabbed her arms, but Raylan stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. "Hold," he ordered. The crowd fell silent. For a moment, surprised, the guards looked at him, confused. "This one comes with me," Raylan said. "She will answer questions, but not here." The trader's face twisted with anger. "You can't protect her. She's guilty." Raylan ignored him. He took the alien by the arm, gently but firmly, and pulled her out of the circle. The crowd muttered and hissed, but no one dared to block a station commander. They moved through the market, the alien silent. Beside him, she walked with a strange grace, even in her torn clothes. When they reached a quieter corridor, Raylan stopped. He turned to her. "Name," he said. "Syrah," she answered. Her voice was steady now, though her eyes still searched the shadows. Raylan crossed his arms. "You said they would kill you before you could tell me. Tell me what?" She hesitated, looking at the walls, the ceiling, as if expecting someone to listen. Then she said, "The crystal was not stolen from them. It was taken from me." Raylan frowned. "That's not the story I heard, because the story you heard," she said, "is the one they want you to believe." Raylan felt the air change. This wasn't just a market theft, it was something bigger. Syrah stepped closer, lowering her voice. "The crystal is more than trade goods. It is a key, and now they will do anything to take it from me." Before Raylan could ask more, a sharp sound echoed down the corridor, the hiss of a plasma door opening. Two figures in black armor stepped into view. Moving fast, Syrah's eyes widened. "They've found me," she whispered. Raylan didn't know who they were, but the way Syrah's hand twitched toward her belt told him one thing. She was about to run. The armored figures broke into a sprint, and the chase began again. This time Raylan was caught in it too. And as he ran beside her, he realized something strange. Part of him wanted to know the truth, and part of him already believed her. Raylan's boots pounded against the metal floor as the black armored figures closed in. The corridor lights flashed red. Security alert. Syrah moved like water, weaving around storage crates and maintenance pipes, her silver eyes flicking. In every direction, Raylan kept pace, but his mind was racing. Who were these people? And why were they chasing her inside a human-run station? They turned a corner into a narrow maintenance tunnel. The sound of footsteps behind them grew louder. Sarah reached into her torn jacket and pulled out a small disc that glowed faint blue. She slapped it onto a wall panel, and with a sudden hiss, a false bulkhead slid shut behind them. The footsteps stopped on the other side, muffled voices arguing. Raylan stared at the sealed wall. "That's not standard station tech," he said. "It's mine," she replied, her voice low. "And now you see why they want me gone." They kept moving until they reached a dim cargo bay on the station's lower deck. The smell of rust and stale air clung to the shadows. Sarah leaned against a crate, breathing hard but still alert. Raylan stood in the doorway, keeping watch. "You need to tell me everything," he said. "I already told you," she replied. "The crystal was mine. They took it, and they will kill anyone who stands in their way." Raylan frowned. "Why would they risk killing you in public for a piece of crystal?" Sarah's eyes softened, but only for a moment. "Because it's not just a crystal, Commander. It's a key to knowledge my people have hidden for centuries. Knowledge humans would fight wars over." The way she said it, calm, steady, made Raylan believe she wasn't lying. But he also knew that if her words were true, it meant danger for both of them. Before he could ask more, the sound of boots approached from the far end of the bay. Not the armored figures this time. Station security. 3 officers in black and gray uniforms. Their leader, Lieutenant Harker, stepped forward. "Commander," Harker said, his tone sharp. "You're harboring a known thief. Hand her over." Raylan didn't move. "Your evidence?" he asked. Harker looked annoyed. "Multiple witnesses. Footage from the market cameras. And she matches the suspect description from the theft report." Raylan glanced at Sarah, who stood silently, her expression unreadable. He'd seen enough false reports to know when a case was too convenient. "She stays with me until I hear her side in full," Raylan said. "That's not your call," Harker replied, stepping closer. "She's alien. No legal standing here. The sooner you hand her over, the sooner this is done." Raylan's jaw tightened. "This station runs under human law, Lieutenant, and human law gives her the right to be heard." The 2 men locked eyes, the silence heavy. Finally, Harker gave a short laugh without humor. "Fine, Commander. But when she turns on you, don't say I didn't warn you." The security team backed out. But Raylan knew this wasn't the end. If Harker was involved in whatever was happening, then Sarah's enemies had more reach than he thought. When the footsteps faded, Raylan turned to her. "They'll be watching me now," he said. "And you?" Sarah tilted her head, a faint smile touching her lips. "Then we are already linked. Commander, in my culture, saving someone's life creates a life debt. I am yours until that debt is repaid." Raylan shook his head. "That's not how things work here. It is how it works for me," she replied simply. Before Raylan could answer, the bay's overhead lights flickered. A thin beam of red light danced across his chest, a targeting laser. He shoved Sarah behind a crate just as a bolt of plasma scorched the wall where they had been standing. From the shadows above, a masked figure fired again. Raylan drew his sidearm, returning fire, the shots ringing in the enclosed space. Sarah rolled across the floor, snatching up a broken pipe. With a swift motion, she threw it like a spear. The weapon struck the attacker's shoulder, knocking him off balance. Raylan rushed forward, slamming the figure into the wall. The mask cracked, revealing a scarred human face. The man growled, spitting blood. "You should have stayed out of this." Commander Raylan yanked him to the ground. But before he could question him, the man bit down on something hidden in his mouth. A faint hiss, then foam a suicide capsule. Within seconds, he went still. Raylan cursed under his breath. Sarah stood over the body, her expression dark. "They will keep coming," she said, "until they have the key, or I am dead." Raylan looked at the corpse, then at her. He knew she was telling the truth. Now, the chase in the market, the false theft charge, the armed attackers, it all fit. But there was still one question burning in his mind. "What's in that archive?" he asked. Sarah met his gaze, her silver eyes glinting in the dim light. "Something that will change the balance of power between our species," she said, "forever." The lower decks of Meridian 7 were quieter now, but Raylan knew it was only an illusion. Trouble didn't vanish. It just waited for the right moment to strike. He led Sarah through a maintenance corridor, toward the safer mid-levels. She followed, without a sound, her silver eyes watching everything. It was like she was mapping every shadow, every vent, every camera in sight. "You don't need to follow me," Raylan said, not looking back. "I told you," she replied, her voice calm. "Life debt. That's not how things work here." He said again. "It is how it works for me," she answered. Raylan didn't argue further, but her presence felt heavy. Every time he glanced over his shoulder, she was there, silent, steady, unreadable. They passed through a service hatch into a small security lounge. Raylan grabbed a ration pack from the dispenser, tossing one to her. She caught it easily, but didn't eat. "You don't trust me," she said. "I don't trust anyone I just met," Raylan replied, tearing open his own ration. "Yet you defended me," she said, her tone almost questioning. "Because the story didn't make sense," he answered, "and I don't like lies." Sarah leaned against the wall, her hands loosely folded. "You will see more lies before this is over," she said, before Raylan could respond. The lounge door hissed open, and a young officer stepped inside. His eyes flicked to Sarah, then quickly away. "Commander, there's an update on the crystal theft case," the officer said, handing over a datapad. Raylan scanned the report. The so-called evidence was two perfect camera angles, showing only Sarah's back. Transaction logs with no physical verification. It was the kind of setup designed for people to stop asking questions. When Raylan looked up, the officer was already leaving, his shoulders tense. Sarah's gaze was fixed on him. "They are watching you two now," she said quietly. After a few minutes, Raylan decided to move her to a temporary safe house, a storage unit he sometimes used for sensitive investigations. The corridors on the way there were dim and nearly empty. Halfway through, Sarah suddenly stopped, her head tilted slightly. "Listening." "What is it?" Raylan asked. "They're here," she whispered. Before Raylan could question her, a shadow moved at the far end of the corridor. 3 figures stepped out, not armored this time, but dressed like ordinary workers. Raylan's instincts told him they were no workers. One reached into his jacket, pulling a concealed weapon. Raylan's pistol was already in his hand. "Back," he ordered Sarah. The men didn't listen. The first one lunged forward, and Raylan fired. The shot striking the weapon from his grip. Sarah didn't hide behind him. She darted to the side, moving faster than he expected. She grabbed a loose pipe from the wall and swung it into the second man's knees. He went down with a sharp cry. The third attacker pulled a blade, its edge glowing faint orange. Raylan moved to block him, but Sarah was already there, twisting his wrist until the blade clattered to the floor. When it was over, the attackers were sprawled on the ground. Groaning, Raylan cuffed them quickly, calling for a patrol unit to collect them. "You're not helpless," he said, eyeing her. "I never said I was," she replied, almost smiling. Raylan knew she had training. The way she moved wasn't random. It was precise, deliberate, like someone who'd been in fights before. They reached the storage unit without further trouble. It was small, with a narrow bed, a desk, and a locked cabinet. Raylan keyed the door shut and activated the privacy shield. "You stay here," he said, low profile. "No moving around." Sarah nodded, but he knew she wouldn't just sit still. "I will stay close," she said, "but you cannot stop what is coming." Raylan sighed, heading for the door. As he stepped out, he thought about her words and how they weren't a threat, just a fact. Later that night, as he reviewed security footage in his office, he spotted something. The 3 men who attacked them weren't strangers. One of them had been seen talking to Lieutenant Harker earlier that day. Raylan's stomach tightened. It meant station security wasn't just failing, it was compromised. When he returned to check on Sarah, he found her sitting cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed. In her hands was a small metal device, softly pulsing with light. "What is that?" Raylan asked. "A locator," she said without opening her eyes. "But not for me, for the crystal." Raylan froze. "You mean you can find it?" "Yes," she replied. "But once I start moving toward it, they will know." The way she said they made it sound bigger than Harker, bigger than the station. Raylan realized then that keeping her safe wasn't just about defending her in the market anymore. If she could really find the crystal, and whatever it unlocked, then the fight was only beginning. Raylan didn't sleep that night. The locator device Sarah carried kept pulsing in his mind, each soft light like a heartbeat counting down to trouble. If she could track the stolen crystal, then they had a way forward. But it also meant her enemies would be able to track them in return, and if Harker was involved, there was no telling who else inside the station's security force might be working against them. At first light, Raylan returned to the storage unit. Sarah was already awake, sitting at the desk with the locator in front of her. She glanced up as he entered. "You've decided," she said. "Not as a question but as a statement." "We go after it," Raylan replied, "but carefully. No moves without knowing the risks." Sarah tapped the device, and a faint holographic projection bloomed above it. A map of the station's outer sectors. A single point of blue light pulsed near the far cargo docks. "That is where the crystal is now," she said. Raylan frowned. The outer docks are restricted. Only heavy freight ships load there. Sarah's eyes narrowed slightly. Then the thief intends to move it off station soon. Raylan studied the map. Those docks are under tighter surveillance. He said, if it's there, we'll need clearance to even step inside. Sarah tilted her head. Or we find another way. Her tone told him she already had ideas. But Raylan wasn't ready to break every rule. Not yet. Before they could plan further, Raylan's comlink buzzed. It was Officer Grant, one of the few in security Raylan trusted. Commander, Grant said in a low voice. You need to see something. Now, they met in a small maintenance hub on Deck 9. Grant handed Raylan a portable data core. This is a copy of the security logs from yesterday, Grant said, but the originals have already been wiped from the main system. Raylan plugged the core into a terminal. The footage showed the market scene, but from an angle Raylan hadn't seen before. It clearly showed another figure, just behind the trader's stall, slipping something into the alien's path moments before the shouting began. The face was partially hidden, but Raylan recognized the posture. Lieutenant Harker. Raylan's jaw tightened. Why delete this? He asked. Grant glanced at the door before answering. Because someone high up doesn't want you proving she was framed. Raylan copied the footage to his personal device, locking it with his own encryption. Back at the storage unit, he showed the clip to Ciro. Her expression didn't change much, but her voice was cool. So now you see the first layer, she said. First layer, Raylan repeated. There is more, she replied. Harker is only a tool. The ones truly after the crystal work far above his rank. Raylan leaned on the desk. Then tell me everything you know. Ciro took a slow breath. My people were once part of a coalition with humans, long before your recorded history began, she said. But when that alliance broke, we hid certain knowledge, maps, archives, technologies, to keep it out of human hands. The crystal is one of those keys, she continued. It opens a vault containing what we call the Dawn Archive. The contents could change everything. Trade, travel, even war. Raylan listened in silence. He had heard of the Dawn Archive only in scattered myths told by fringe explorers. If what she said was true, it was far more than a myth. It was a target worth killing for. Sarah leaned closer. If your people take the archive, they will grow stronger, but so will their enemies. The galaxy will burn. Raylan rubbed his forehead. And you plan to destroy it? No, she said, to protect it, until the right hands can hold it. The locator pulsed again. Faster this time. They're moving it, Sarah said. Raylan checked the map projection. The blue light had shifted toward the dock's secure loading bay. A ship ID flashed beside it. Raylan recognized the code. That's a military transport, he said. It's leaving in less than 2 hours. They didn't have clearance, and the docks would be crawling with guards loyal to Harker's side. Raylan weighed the risks. We can't go through the front, he said finally. We'll use maintenance tunnels under the freight lines. Sarah nodded. You know the station better than I do, she said, but I can get us past there. Sensors. The plan was set quickly. They would move in 1 hour, using the tunnels to reach the outer docks before the crystal could be loaded. Raylan armed himself with a compact blaster and a cum scrambler. Sarah packed only the locator and a small multi-tool device that looked alien in design. As they left the storage unit, Raylan glanced down the empty corridor. Somewhere, he knew, cameras were still watching them. But now, at least, he had a clearer picture of what they were up against. A theft, a frame job, a conspiracy inside station security, and a stolen artifact that could ignite a galactic war. The maintenance tunnels beneath Meridian 7 were narrow and dark. Pipes hissed with steam, and the hum of distant machinery echoed through the walls. Raylan led the way with a small wrist light, its beam slicing through the shadows. Sarah followed, close, her eyes scanning every junction, every vent. The locator in her hand pulsed steadily. The blue light was getting brighter. They had been moving for almost 20 minutes when Raylan slowed. Ahead, the tunnel split into 2 paths. One leads straight under the outer docks, he said. The other loops around to the freight lifts. Sarah studied the locator. The crystal is moving toward the lift, she said, but slowly, as if they are waiting. Raylan didn't like the sound of that. If the transport crew was delaying, it meant they knew someone might be coming. Could be a trap, he muttered. Sarah's lips curved slightly. It is always a trap, she said. The question is whether we step into it or not. They chose the left path toward the lifts. The air grew colder, and the smell of oil and metal grew stronger. When they reached the end of the tunnel, crouched beside a vent, and peered through, The freight lift bay stretched out beyond massive cargo containers, stacked like walls. 2 security officers stood near the main control panel, their rifles slung but ready. Raylan tapped his cum. "Grant, I'm at the lift bay," he whispered. "I need you to trigger a power cycle on this sector, just 30 seconds. There was a pause, then Grant's voice came back, low and tense. "Understood, Commander." Seconds later, the overhead lights flickered and went dark. Raylan moved. Slipping out of the vent and across the floor in the shadows, Sarah followed, her steps so silent, they barely stirred the dust. They reached the far side, hiding behind a tall crate. Raylan was about to signal the next move, when a new voice spoke from the shadows. "Going somewhere." Commander Raylan spun, blaster raised, and froze. Lieutenant Harker stepped into the dim light, flanked by 2 more armed officers. His smirk was sharp and cold. "You've been busy," Harker said. "Snooping where you don't belong." Raylan kept his voice even. "You framed her, Harker, and I have the proof." "Proof?" Harker laughed. "Against me. In this station, do you know how fast that will disappear?" He stepped closer. "You could have stayed out of it, Raylan, but you had to play the hero." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Where's the crystal?" she asked. Harker ignored her. "You think you're saving her, but you're just delivering her to the highest bidder," he said. Raylan's grip tightened on his blaster. "I'm not selling her out," he said. Harker tilted his head. "Then why did your friend Grant tell me you'd be here?" The words hit Raylan like a blow. Grant had been one of the few people he trusted. If Harker was telling the truth, it meant the betrayal was deeper than he thought. From the corner of his eye, he saw movement, 2 more figures stepping out from behind. The cargo stacks. Rifles up. They weren't going to talk their way out of this. Sarah moved first, dropping low and rolling behind a crate as the first shot blazed past. Raylan fired back, forcing Harker to duck for cover. The bay erupted into chaos. Flashes of plasma fire, the crack of metal, the hiss of overheated vents. Sarah used the confusion to slip between the stacks. Moving toward the lift platform, Raylan kept the officers pinned down, but one managed to flank him. The butt of a rifle slammed into his shoulder, knocking the blaster from his hand. Before the officer could fire, Sarah appeared behind him, striking him across the head with a steel rod. Raylan grabbed his weapon back and fired at another guard who was aiming for her. Harker shouted over the noise, "Stop them. Don't let her reach the crate." Raylan turned toward the lift and saw it, a black container with a military seal, guarded by 2 more officers. Sarah was already there, the locator in her hand, glowing bright. She touched the container with her palm, and a faint hum filled the air. The lock mechanism clicked open, revealing a smaller, sealed case inside. Raylan ran to her side, covering her from incoming fire. As Sarah reached for the case, a sharp voice echoed from above. "Enough." Everyone froze. From the upper gantry, a tall figure stepped into view, not in security armor, but in the crisp black uniform of the station's governing council. Raylan recognized her instantly. Counselor Vera, one of the highest authorities on Meridian 7. Her gaze swept the scene, calm and cold. "You've done well bringing her here," Vera said, looking at Raylan. It was then he understood this had been a setup from the start. They had let him get close, let him find the crystal, so they could take both him and Sarah at once. Harker stepped forward, smirking again. Orders carried out. Counselor Raylan's mind raced. He and Sarah were surrounded, outgunned, and the enemy was no longer hiding in the shadows. The betrayal was complete, and the real power behind it had finally stepped into the light. The freight bay was silent for only a heartbeat. Raylan stood frozen, his blaster half raised, his mind turning over Counselor Vera's words. Around him, Harker and the armed officers closed in, their weapons ready. Above, Vera watched like a hunter who had already caught her prey. "You've brought me exactly what I needed," Vera said, her voice calm and cold. "The crystal, and the only person who can unlock it." Her gaze shifted to Sarah, and the fool who believed protecting her was the right thing to do. Raylan's jaw tightened. "You used the theft as bait," he said. Vera smiled faintly. "You're quick for a soldier, Commander. The crystal's true value has nothing to do with trade or law. It's a key. And the archive it opens will change the balance of power in this sector." Sarah's voice cut through the air. "And you will use it to start a war. Wars create winners," Vera replied smoothly, "and losers. I prefer to be the former." Raylan glanced at Sarah, and in that brief look, they understood each other. They were not getting out by talking. The guards tightened the circle, weapons aimed. Sarah slowly lowered her hands, as if, in surrender, her fingers brushed the small alien device clipped to her belt. hidden from most eyes, Vera stepped down the gantry stairs, moving toward the crate. "Open it," she ordered. Raylan hesitated. "You can shoot me, but you'll never get her to unlock it," he said. Vera's smile didn't fade. "Oh, Commander, I already know she will open it, to save your life." Harker moved forward to grab Sarah. That was his mistake. Her hands snapped up, pressing the alien device against his chest. A sudden burst of blue light flared, and Harker staggered back, his weapon short-circuiting. In that instant, Raylan dove sideways, rolling behind a cargo stack. Blaster fire erupted across the bay. Sarah darted behind the crate with him, the sealed case in her arms. "They can't get it if it's gone," she said, her voice urgent. Raylan's eyes widened. "You're going to destroy it?" "Yes," she replied, "unless you have a better idea." Raylan thought fast. Destroying the crystal might stop Vera, but it would also erase whatever was in the archive forever, if they could get it off station instead. It might still be protected, somewhere Vera's reach couldn't touch. "Sarah, can you move it?" he asked. "Yes. But I'll need 30 seconds with no one shooting at me," she said. "Then I'll give you 60. Raylan answered. He stood, firing at the nearest guards, forcing them to scatter. Sarah activated her device again, setting it onto the crystal case. The device's lights spun faster, a low hum filling the air. Above them, Vera shouted orders, her comm finally cracking. "Stop them. Do not let that crystal leave this room." A guard charged Raylan, but he caught the man's rifle barrel and slammed it into the floor. Another shot grazed his shoulder, but he stayed on his feet. The hum from Sarah's device grew into a sharp pulse. Raylan risked a glance. The crystal's image shimmered in the air above the case, like it was being pulled apart into light. Vera saw it too. She aimed her own sidearm and fired at Sarah. Raylan moved without thinking, stepping into the path. The blast hit his armor, knocking him to one knee. Pain seared through his chest, but he kept firing back. Sarah's device let out a final rising tone. Then, with a blinding flash, the crystal vanished. The case was empty. Sarah grabbed Raylan, pulling him toward the side lift. "Where did you send it?" he gasped. "Somewhere she can't reach," Sarah said. "But not forever, we will. Need to guard it," Vera screamed orders. But it was too late. The lift doors closed, carrying them down into the maintenance tunnels. Raylan leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "You could have destroyed it," he said, "and waste what my people died to protect." She replied, "No, Commander, this is only the beginning." They reached the lower levels and slipped into the shadows. Somewhere above, the most powerful figure on the station had just lost the prize she had spent years hunting, and Raylan knew she would never stop coming for it. The maintenance tunnels stretched ahead in darkness. Raylan's breathing was still heavy from the fight, the ache in his chest a sharp reminder of Vera's shot. Sarah moved ahead, the locator device now silent, the blue light gone. The crystal was no longer on the station. But that didn't mean they were safe. They stopped in a small service bay. Raylan leaned against the wall, adjusting the seal on his armor. Sarah watched him with her unreadable silver eyes. "You took the blast from me," she said quietly. "You're the one carrying the most dangerous object in this sector," he replied. "I figured keeping you alive was the better move." A faint smile touched her lips. "In my culture, that would mean your life debt is now mine," she said. Raylan chuckled once, then winced at the pain. "Seems like we're even," he said. "No," she replied. "Life debts are not so easily balanced." They stayed in the bay until Raylan could move again. When they emerged, they kept to the shadows, avoiding patrols. News of the fight in the freight bay would already be spreading. By now, Vera would have locked down the station, sealing exits. They needed a way out, and fast. Raylan tapped his cum. "Grant," he said, his voice low. "If you're still on my side, now's the time to prove it." For a moment, there was no answer. Then Grant's voice came through, tense. "Commander, I didn't know she was setting you up. I swear. I can get you to Dock 6, but you'll need to move now." Dock 6 was an old repair bay, rarely used, since newer sections had been built. If they could reach it, they might find a small ship to slip away in. Raylan and Sarah moved quickly, taking side passages and maintenance ladders. Twice, they had to duck into alcoves as patrols passed by. The tension in the air was thick. Every footstep could be their last on Meridian 7. When they reached Dock 6, the bay was dark except for a single worklight. A small shuttle sat on the platform, its hull patched and worn. Grant was waiting near the hatch. "I've loaded basic supplies," he said. "It's not much, but it'll get you clear of the station." Raylan stepped closer. "You're sure?" "You're not just leading us into another trap?" he asked. Grant shook his head. "I'm done following Vera's orders. She's gone too far." Syrah studied Grant for a long moment, then nodded. "He speaks truth," she said softly. Grant handed Raylan a small data chip. "This is a copy of every file I could pull before the lockdown," he said. "Names, accounts, communications. It proves she's been running the station for her own gain." Raylan slipped the chip into his armor pouch. "This could bring her down," he said. "Or it could make her more dangerous." Syrah warned. Raylan knew she was right. People like Vera didn't go quietly. They boarded the shuttle, the hatch sealing behind them. Raylan slid into the pilot's seat, running quick checks on the controls. Syrah sat beside him, her gaze fixed on the black void of space beyond the dock doors. "You have somewhere to go?" he asked. She hesitated. "There are places where the crystal will be safe, for now. But to get there, we will need allies." The engines hummed to life. Grant's voice came over the comm. "I'll delay their pursuit as long as I can. Commander, good luck." Raylan gave a short nod. "You too, Grant." The dock doors began to open, revealing the stars. But before the shuttle could launch, the comm crackled again, and Vera's voice filled the cabin. "Running will only make it worse. Commander," she said, her tone cold and steady. "When you're ready to give me what's mine, I'll be waiting." Raylan didn't answer. He pushed the throttle, and the shuttle slipped out into space. The station shrank behind them, its lights glittering like a false beacon. Syrah leaned back in her seat. "You've made an enemy you cannot escape," she said. Raylan glanced at her. "Then I guess we'd better make some friends." They set a course toward the outer systems. Somewhere out there, allies might be found. And somewhere out there, the crystal waited, carrying secrets that could shape the fate of both their peoples. For now, they were partners not by choice at first, but by something stronger, a shared fight, a shared enemy, and the knowledge that the road ahead would be far more dangerous than the one they'd left behind. The stars stretched out before them, endless and cold, but neither looked away, because whatever was coming, they would face it together.